This video will have a look at replacing colours in a Stitch Mastery chart, and we have a couple of different ways to do this. First of all, of course, you can always simply choose a different colour and paint the stitches, but if you're planning to recolour a lot of stitches, there are two ways that may be quicker. First way is if you want to replace all of the stitches in a certain colour with another colour that's present in your chart. So for instance, I may want to change these green stitches back to black, and I'm going to do that by selecting the colour, so not selecting the text on its own, clicking on the colour icon itself, and then simply hit delete on your keyboard, and Stitch Mastery prompts you that it needs to know what to do with those stitches, so it gives me the option to change to black as it's already in the chart. So click OK, and that removes the colour from your key as well as replacing it in the chart. And again, we may want to do the same with the yellow. Hit delete and choose black, select OK. Something to note is that when you start adding colours to a chart, your chart initially starts out with all the stitches as plain knit stitches, and Stitch Mastery will add white to your key once it realises that some of the stitches are now in a different colour. So it may be that if you're creating a colour work chart where everything will be knit, you'll explain that in the pattern before you come to work in the chart. So you can hide that key entry by coming to Edit and Hide Selection. So you see I have the knit stitch selected, and I'm going to hide selection to remove that from the key. The other way that you can change colours is instead of using delete, you can actually edit the colour without replacing anything. So I've clicked on the red colour here, and I'm going to come to Yarn in the main menu and edit Yarn Properties. And let's say I want to make this a slightly lighter shade, so a darker orange. And I'll change text and key to dark orange, and I can change the colour. So I'm going to probably want to use a custom colour so that there is still a bit of difference between that and the next orange. Well, let's try that. And click OK. And you can see the chart is now recoloured. And again, we'll hide the knit stitch from the key. And it may be that we want to use a different colour as the background to the chart. And this is where we need to let you know about a bug in the software, which we will be aiming to fix, that we've recently realised is that white does not behave in the same way if you use the delete option. So if I hit delete, you'll see that white comes out of the key, but the stitches are still white. It hasn't asked me what I want to do with those stitches. And actually what happens if we click edit and show hidden items in selection, you'll see that the white was just hidden from the key and not actually deleted. So I'll just hide that knit stitch again. So you will want to use the yarn properties to change white stitches for the time being. So I'm going to change this to, let's choose a blue colour, and just, oh, this is going to be vivid, and click OK, and that changes all of your white stitches. And also to demonstrate, if we turn on, come to diagram, edit diagram properties, written instructions, and include colour in written instructions and for repeated stitches, then we see that we do have the pale blue coming in there rather than the white. One final thing to note, in this second chart we have a two-colour motif, and it might be that you want to invert those colours. Now obviously what's going to happen if I change all my white stitches to black or all my black stitches to white straight away, we're going to lose the pattern entirely because they'll all be the same. There's not at the moment a feature to invert colours, but what to do, bearing in mind that the delete option will not work for white stitches, is let's change one of our black stitches to a blue, and then we can either delete or use the yarn properties. The quickest way, delete, change these to blue, We can then edit the yarn properties for the white and make it black. Make them black. And again, come to yarn properties and change the blue to white. And OK. If the software doesn't change your stitches immediately, one way to get it to do it is just to come and select the stitches, and that basically re-alerts the software to the fact that they're there and that something should be different. So just using the marquee select tool to highlight them will then change the colour to the one that you've requested. So click off of there and you can see that we now have the colours inverted.